Good evening, everyone. I'm Larry Kudlow. Welcome back to the Kudlow Report, where we believe free market capitalism on the supply side with King Dollar is the best path to prosperity. First up this evening, is the dollar's demise a sign of global declinism for America? And will it blow up the bull market economic recovery? Let us get right to our very special guest. Here now is Minnesota Republican Governor Tim Pawlenty, who really is a leading GOP presidential contender for 2012. Governor, welcome back to the program.
Well, Larry, I think you're jumping to conclusions there, but it's good to be back with you nonetheless. Thanks for having me on.
That's what I do, Governor. I jump to conclusions. I basically make a living out of it, but it is a great pleasure to see you, and you're very kind to help us out. And, you know, let me just begin with this hypothetical. How would a President Pawlenty restore and revive the U.S. dollar and American prestige overseas?
Well, I think the nervousness you're seeing in the currency markets, particularly as it relates to the dollar, is the canary in the coal mine. It's the marketplace in the currency saying we are troubled and concerned by America's fiscal mismanagement. And the first thing we need to do, Larry, is to stop printing money. If you print more of something, it's worth less. That's the very simple lesson and rule that is, I think, being explained or being advanced by the markets, and we need to get our fiscal house in order. That means we have to stop spending money, we have to stop running up this huge deficit, we have to stop running up this huge debt, and we've got to get America back on a path of fiscal conservatism when it comes to spending, and that will help strengthen the dollar.
Well, gee willy gosh, I totally agree with that. That is extremely well said and succinctly put. Let me ask you something. You know, American exceptionalism is suffering under President Obama. Not only the mismanagement of the dollar, but when he was in Europe, he says, I suspect that the Brits believe in British exceptionalism and the Greeks believe in Greek exceptionalism. Huh? That's my question to you. Huh? FDR wouldn't have said that. John F. Kennedy wouldn't have said that. Ike wouldn't have said that. Ronald Reagan wouldn't have said that. Why is President Obama taking that tack?
Because he believes, he believes in it. I think there's a lot of us, you and I included, that believe that the United States of America is a country that has a certain destiny with a set of foundations and principles and values that are the cornerstone of this great land, and they are not evident in equal measure all across the globe. We have been a country that has been visionary, has been leading in large part because we're a country that's based on not pop psychology, not emotion, but on time-tested principles and values that our founding fathers not just talked about, but engrafted into these great documents, our founding documents. And I believe in American exceptionalism. I know many other Americans do. And I think President Obama should not be traveling around the world apologizing. I think we have a positive role in the world. I am proud of the role that America has played in the world. We should be highlighting the good things that we're doing, not apologizing for all the bad things that he thinks we're doing.
Let me shift gears just a wee bit to the economy. And where is the Republican growth message? Where is the Republican supply side, lower tax rate growth message? And I want to begin with a question to you. Chris Christie in New Jersey has not had a tax-cutting plan. The guy has blown a 15-point lead against Governor John Corzine. Does that not suggest that when the Republicans depart from the supply side, they go nowhere but down?
Well, I think Chris Christie's still going to win that race, Larry. You know, New Jersey's tough for a Republican even in a decent year, so don't count him out yet. And he's somebody I think you would see as a tax cutter and somebody who's going to be a fiscal disciplinarian and get the spending reined in. So I'm hopeful for his race in New Jersey. But beyond that, in terms of the growth message, you know, the vast majority of the growth in this country in terms of jobs and economic activity, as you know, comes from early stage, venture stage, angel stage, and small and medium-sized businesses. And we should have tax cuts and incentives geared towards their growth, towards their reinvestment, towards their redeployment of capital. And we have a tax code now that's heading in the wrong direction. We have a president who's going to let the Bush tax cuts expire. He's not only going to not make the situation better, he's going to make it worse, and it's going to be counterproductive for all the reasons your question suggests.
So, okay, you got a good message, but where's the overall generic message? And I come back to Chris Christie. I don't want to pick on him, but gee whiz, golly, he should have been easily. I mean, New Jersey is the highest tax state, or one of them, with New York and California. I don't hear it coming out of the Senate. I don't hear it coming out of the House. Can you lead on this question, sir?
Well, there's no question. And keep in mind, there's a third-party candidate in that race, so the majority of people are voting not for the status quo in New Jersey, but for change. Chris Christie, I think, will make the case and close the case for that race.
That's because Christie gave him an opening. I don't want to obsess about this race, but I just think, I know you're a senior official in the Republican Governors Association, and this is a big race. But golly, it just seems like he should have closed that independent down. He should have closed Corzine down.
Yeah. This is no longer a matter of political philosophy. In places like New Jersey and New York and California and soon to be many other states, this is now a matter of basic math. They have built up cost structures that cannot be sustained. It's the governmental equivalent of General Motors circa 15 or 20 years ago. This thing needs to be massively restructured, starting with driving down taxes, limiting the spending increases, and even in California, when they put the proposition forward on should we raise taxes to get out of this mess, the people of California said no, and even 53% of the people in San Francisco said no. So you can win, even in New Jersey, with that message, even in San Francisco.
Well, you're going to take a state away from Obama, aren't you, in Virginia? Swing state. Looks like McDonald's going to win. He's up by 9 or 10 points. Isn't that important?
Yeah, I know we don't want to take anything for granted, but if the election were held today, a Republican would win in the swing state of Virginia. I think we're also going to win that New Jersey race, but I think that affirms a Republican comeback. But again, we need to be more than just critics of President Obama. We also have to have our own positive plan, and that's why the supply-side growth message that you're hinting at, and I embrace, is one that I think we should put forward across the country, and it will work. People understand that.
What about Obamonomics? Is the stimulus plan, the fiscal spending and borrowing stimulus plan, is that making the economic recovery outlook worse or better?
Well, it's not making it better, Larry. Hardly any of the money had been spent when the recession had already been declared over. Actually, it hasn't been officially declared over, but if it turns out that the recession is officially declared over sometime mid-late summer, the facts are going to be that almost none of the stimulus money was actually spent by then, and the economy recovered without it. And in the meantime, what it's done is exponentially grow the debt and the deficit of this nation. If you look out 10 years, they're going to be running trillion-dollar deficits, or on average, as far as you can see. It is reckless. It is unsustainable. It is irresponsible. We're going to have the federal government spending equivalent of the subprime mortgage meltdown within 15 or 20 years. Again, this isn't political rhetoric. This is basic math. And this president and this Congress are putting this country on a pathway towards bankruptcy. It needs to come to an end. And it relates back to your opening question about the strength of the dollar as well.
I mean, even if they had spent all the $800 billion in the first 9 or 10 months, would that have made the economy better or worse? I mean, is the issue the timing of the spending, or is the issue this simply the wrong economic growth model, borrow from Peter to spend on Paul?
You know, I believe that some stimulus would have been in order, but the most effective stimulus, the bang for the buck, should have been things that were cut taxes and put money into people's pockets as quickly as possible. For example, cutting the payroll tax for both employers and employees. That would have been stimulative. This thing that they passed is an $800 billion monstrosity, and the own Congressional Budget Office said that only a small fraction of it was actually stimulative. The rest of it was basically supporting and maintaining government bureaucracies. As you know, that has little to do with intermediate long-term growth or any growth at all.
I read in the papers the second stimulus plan is coming. They deny it, but the details show $100 billion more. Tax credits that are temporary, more unemployment benefits, more this, more that, more housing tax credits, which I think steal growth from the future, which is going to come and maybe give us a double-dip recession in 2010 or 2011. What do you think about a second stimulus?
Well, I think a second stimulus, again, will worsen the debt and deficit picture that we just mentioned before. But if we're going to have additional stimulus, it should be in the form of targeted tax cut, targeted tax relief that is growth-oriented. We should be talking about bringing down marginal income tax rates, cutting capital gains rates. We should be talking about tax credits or incentives for angel stage and venture stage investing, helping with more research and development and the like. That's the kind of package. And the payroll tax, by the way, that's the kind of package that would be truly stimulative. But again, it's too little, too late. This economy has stabilized. It seems it's heading back in the right direction. I don't think we should spend any more money on stimulus at this point.
Let me turn to health.